Good morning, everyone. Apologies for not being with you. I'm just a little bit under the weather and I didn't want to pass on to anyone else. So Rabbi Hanine ben Dosa has a very particular view about the role and the positioning of wisdom. And in Mishnah 11, he told us that if wisdom if wisdom does not come after Yirat Chet, if Yirat Chet does not precede wisdom, that wisdom is simply not going to be enduring. Any wisdom which is there without Yirat Chet is bad news. In today's Mishnah, Mishnah 12, the next Mishnah, he continues on this theme and he teaches us something else about wisdom, and that is, Hu Haya Omer, he used to say, Kol shema'asav merubim mechochmato. Anybody whose deeds are greater than his wisdom, chochmato mitkayemet, then once again, his wisdom will endure. V'chol shechochmato merubah mema'asav, but anyone whose wisdom is greater than his deeds, ein chochmato mitkayemet, then his wisdom simply will not endure. And in this, he strikes a contrast with the prevailing Greek philosophy. Aristotle, of course, the great Greek philosopher, taught that the highest virtue and the ultimate purpose of man is the attainment of the contemplative life, to be able to use and exercise one's reason. But for Rabbi Hanine ben Dosa, wisdom and knowledge are just a means to an end. And if it doesn't lead you to do something of positive action, it's of little value. I mean, nobody who's ever been hungry and starving has benefited from somebody standing next to them thinking very deeply about and feeling so sorry for how they're hungry. It needs an action to do something for that person if you're going to sate their hunger. As a matter of fact, Rabbi Yehuda Halevi, the great philosopher, Jewish philosopher, described Greek philosophy as a blossom that bears no fruit. Well, you look at a tree and you see beautiful blossoms. You say, my goodness, how beautiful is this tree? And look at these magnificent blossoms. And you can stand and contemplate it all day long. But if it doesn't produce any fruit, then all you have left with is just aesthetic beauty. And in Jewish tradition, aesthetic beauty by itself, is not sufficient. You actually need to be able to take it through into action. You know that lovely story of the professor of moral philosophy? He used to teach a class all about great big concepts about good and right and the proper and moral behavior and ethical and ethics. And one day he did something which was very unbefitting to his position, something which was a behavior that was completely in contrast with everything that he'd been teaching. And one of his students came to him and she had tears in her eyes, and she said she was a first-year philosophy student. She still had sort of ideas of what philosophy might be. And she turned to the professor and she said, Professor, I can't believe this. I can't believe that after you've been teaching us all these beautiful ideas and such wisdom and such incredible intellect, and then you go and behave in this disgusting way. And it is, how do you reconcile that? I mean, how do you explain this to yourself? How do you live with yourself? And he looked at her with pity in his eyes and he said, my dear young lady, he said, must a professor of geometry be a triangle? And that was a concept, that academic study of wisdom could live in some way or another away from a person's behavior or away from action. And that runs entirely contrary to everything that Judaism stands for. And that is what Rabbi Hanine ben Dosa wants to teach us over here, that wisdom which is not followed through by action is not the kind of wisdom that is going to endure. More on this on the next occasion. Rabbi Hanani ben Akasha well, also wanted to wish a very, very deep condolences to Philip and Susie Okrant. This is the second yahrzeit of their son Stephen, and his name was Avram Leib ben Pinchas Moshe. No, Philip, for you and for your family and your daughters, and I know you're representing the whole family being in shul today, how terribly painful this entire episode was. As Eli mentioned on Shabbat, Stephen was one of the early victims of COVID at a very early stage. Had he caught it at some later stage, of course, there would have been all kinds of remedies for him. And sadly, by divine providence, that wasn't to be. I know that you are still struggling as a family with this terrible pain. and that it'll never go away. But we wish you, offer you our condolences, and hope that over a period of time there'll be sufficient healing that you'll be able to get on with your lives and be able to cope with this tragedy, and to put it into a perspective that will, in one respect, never go away, but on the other hand, won't interfere with the joy and the happinesses that you'll be looking for with your family together, in your grandchildren and your lives to come. Wish you all the very best.